If you watched the last episode of J&L Video Postcards, you know that me and Al are moving our lives from New York City to Orlando, Florida, and I wanted to use the opportunity to introduce the missus to the method of train travel in hopes she would fall in love with Amtrak and the scenic vistas and the slow method of travel. And so we could book other routes across the United States. And if you want to see how that goes, or if you just want to see a review of the Amtrak Autotrain, please enjoy the episode. So we packed up the van and we packed up the car and we drove out of Queens, New York one last time. And we drove across the countryside to Lorton, Virginia, which is just outside of Washington, D.C., so you can add some of those sites to your journey as well if you're so inclined. And from Lorton, Virginia, the Autotrain goes on a 900-mile-long trek overnight to Sanford, Florida, which is approximately 45 minutes north of Orlando. We begin at the terminal here in Lorton, Virginia, which was a clean, nice place to wait while we were waiting for the train to get ready to board, which is nice because we recommend getting here early unless you want to wait in a 2-hour-long procession of cars to get on the train like we did. So we checked in and were assigned a train number and a roulette number, and we proceeded when our number was called to what ended up being the very last car on the train, which had its own complications, but you'll see that in a little bit. The cars are loaded onto the train as they arrive, and you can actually work this into your strategy a little bit. If you're willing to wait in a line of cars, then you can actually be one of the first cars off at your place of destination, or you can always pay for priority boarding. We ended up choosing the roulette with the opposing seats, giving you and your partner the opportunity to talk or play games. The roulette was actually a little more snug than we originally anticipated, but it did have all the amenities the bedroom would have had with the exception of the bathroom. The roulette has access to climate control, reading lights, this top bunk here in case your partner is a little more tired than you and needs to take a nap a little early, but they will lay down this for you during dinner service when you're ready. We were aboard the train about 45 minutes before the train finally got to going. You'll notice some starts and stops as they hook up the other train cars, and you'll lose power a couple times, but nothing too disconcerting. But we were just excited to begin our journey. So while the scenery along the Amtrak Autotrain line from Lorton to Orlando is not the most scenic of Amtrak routes, it still had its joys, and I enjoyed for long times just looking out the window and enjoying the country pass by. About 2 hours into our journey, we decided to start exploring, which is what our channel is about, exploring. So we found the train cars to be very long, which is why we came at a little bit of a disadvantage being 5 cars back from the dining car. But it's always a pleasure to poke your head in, maybe not poke your head in, but look into some of the doors that are open to see how everybody else is faring on the train ride. And to see little kids enjoying it was very much a pleasure of the journey. So here you see a dining car that is not currently in use. So normally this bar would be stocked with beers and a few hot foods and chips you can purchase, but due to COVID, they just have it closed down to the main dining car. But you see they still have access to coffee or hot chocolate or tea if you choose to partake along your journey. We took a peek inside one of the bedrooms just to see what we were missing out on if we had decided to pay for the full room. The front dining car had a limited selection of beers, sodas, and hot food, but we decided to wait for full dinner instead of ruining our appetite. For dinner, we chose to eat in the dining car. I had the grilled chicken with rice and green beans. Elle had the creamy tortellini with green beans as well. Our roomette came with free wine, and for dessert, they served vanilla ice cream. We decided to enjoy our ice cream back in our car, but we were pleasantly surprised to see that our car had already been made up with the bed for the night by the porter. So the actual night's sleep was a little rough. The bed was extremely hard, and me and Elle's experience was not the best. We found ourselves waking up several times during the night, and I would calculate that we probably only received a good 2 hours of sleep between the two of us, but we were pleasantly surprised when we did wake up in the morning to look out the window to see beautiful, sunny Florida, our new home. In spite of our rough night of sleep, we were still in reasonably good mood until we found the train coming to a stop, and the engineer came on the line and told us that we were actually being delayed because the train in front of us had actually hit a pedestrian car, and of course our thoughts immediately went to the person in that car, hoping everyone was okay, but it didn't make for a very pleasant train ride, as I probably watched this same scene for 2 hours. I watched the sprinklers come on, come off. I watched people come and go from this little farm, and it was just not the experience that I had originally explained to Elle was going to be absolutely amazing, and was dashing my hopes of selling her on future Amtrak travel. After we sat and stared at this scene for a couple hours, the engineer came on the squawk box a second time, and of course our hopes were raised to hear that we were about to get going, but that isn't what came out of the engineer's mouth at all. It was that they had discovered electric lines on the track from the storm from the night before, in addition to the train ahead that had hit the passenger car. So all in all, we were delayed a total of 5 hours, and our stomachs were rumbling like you couldn't believe. So luckily, Amtrak did have some additional sustenance on board to get us through that time. So the train porter provided us with a complimentary tasty treat for our 5-hour delay. And I didn't see these on sale anywhere, so it makes me wonder if Amtrak keeps them on board just for such an occasion. But I would love to know. Please let me know in the comments below. So somewhere around 1 p.m. we were able to exit the train, and boy were we hungry, but we still had to wait for the cars to be offloaded from the train. And they, as I said, they come off in last come, first served order. So we actually got our vehicles pretty quick, but I think I failed to convince Elle on any future train travel. So it may be a while before you see another train video on this channel, but I hope you enjoyed the episode, and please let me know what you think in the comments below, and see you next time.